The Wounds of Childhood. Scene 1. Arrival at the mansion. The story opens on a rainy afternoon in upstate New York, when a shy 8-year-old boy named Ethan is dropped off at the sprawling Carter estate by social services. The mansion's grandeur contrasts sharply with the cold, sterile welcome he receives. Mrs. Carter's forced smile, Mr. Carter's distracted nod, and the curious, almost predatory gaze from their biological son Brandon all set the tone for his new life. Scene 2. First family dinner. Ethan sits at a long dining table set for 5, but occupied by only 4. The 5th chair, once used by a child who passed away, looms as a silent reminder of tragedy. Brandon makes subtle, cutting remarks at Ethan's expense, while Mr. Carter ignores them, and Mrs. Carter smooths over the tension with empty small talk. Ethan notices the expensive silverware, the formal manners, and how out of place he feels. Scene 3. The new room. Ethan is led to a guest room at the far end of the hallway, smaller and less decorated than Brandon's brightly colored, toy-filled space. That night, the unfamiliar shadows and distant sounds of laughter from the main living room keep him wide awake, tracing patterns of loneliness on the ceiling. Scene 4. Early signs of struggle. Within days, Ethan is enrolled at a prestigious private school, but feels the weight of expectation and social isolation. Classmates whisper about his real family, and teachers, expecting excellence, show little patience for mistakes. At home, every misstep, a broken glass, a slow response, a bad grade, earns him quiet disapproval or veiled disappointment, far more severe than what Brandon faces. Scene 5. A glimpse of kindness. A rare moment of comfort comes from the family's elderly housekeeper, Mrs. Green, who notices Ethan's struggle and secretly sneaks him a cookie after dinner. She gently assures him with, "It's not your fault, sweetheart. Some wounds just take longer to heal." Ethan pockets the words, hungry for affection. Chapter close, vow of silence. Late at night, Ethan listens as the family laughs and celebrates Brandon's soccer trophy downstairs. Clutching his knees in the dark, he vows not to cry. To survive in this house, he must learn to hide his pain. Pressure and being pushed aside. Scene 1. A family outing. Flash forward to Ethan's academic performance unrecognized and uncelebrated. When Ethan quietly asks for permission to join a summer robotics camp, Mrs. Carter sighs and says, "We're focusing on Brandon right now, dear. Maybe next year." Scene 3. Strained school life. Ethan, struggling to live up to the Carters' expectations, studies late into the night to escape mediocrity. His efforts result in B's and the occasional A, but they're never good enough for Mr. Carter, who compares him to Brandon at every turn. At school, whispers about his adoptive status persist, and classmates with powerful parents treat him as an outsider. Scene 4. Pressure turns hostile. During a tense dinner, Ethan accidentally knocks over a glass of water. Mr. Carter's reaction is swift and cutting. "Why can't you pay attention for once?" Brandon snickers, and Mrs. Carter quietly wipes the spill, her silence heavier than words. Ethan apologizes, his face burning with shame. Scene 5. Forced to give up a dream. Ethan receives an acceptance letter for the school's orchestra trip to Europe, a dream opportunity. Full of hope, he shows Mrs. Carter the letter. She glances at the tuition fee and frowns. "You know we just invested in Brandon's college prep. Right now we have to prioritize him. Maybe next time." Brandon, walking past, smirks and mutters, "Face it, you're never their real son." Chapter close. Building walls. Later that night, Ethan stands by his bedroom window, fists clenched as he watches Brandon and his friends laugh by the pool. The pressure and repeated rejections are chiseling away his hope, hardening it into silent determination. He will find a way to prove himself, someday. Family secrets. Scene 1. An eavesdropped conversation. It's late evening at the Carter mansion. While searching the study for a misplaced textbook, Ethan overhears hushed voices coming from behind partially closed doors. Mr. Carter, on the phone, is angry and agitated. "If anyone finds out about those offshore accounts, we lose everything. Keep it buried." The conversation ends abruptly when Mrs. Carter notices a cheap apartment. A yellowed letter with her hurried handwriting. "Please take care of my son." Ethan's heart pounds as he realizes he was adopted not out of charity, but possibly as a cover for some deeper agenda. Scene 4. Hints from Mrs. Green. That evening, Ethan corners Mrs. Green, the longtime housekeeper, and asks her about his past. Mrs. Green looks haunted but says little. She warns, "Some doors, once opened, can never be closed." The Carters, they never do anything without a reason, and sometimes the past is better left alone for your safety. Ethan feels a mixture of fear and determination. The secrecy surrounding his adoption now chills him to the bone. Scene 5. Brandon's mockery and a threat. Brandon catches Ethan snooping and sneers. "You really think you belong here? You're just a pawn. Always have been." He warns Ethan to quit playing detective or face the consequences. There's an implied threat in Brandon's cold stare. Close the seed of suspicion. Alone in his room, Ethan pores over the evidence, foreign bank statements, family photos, and the letter from his birth mother. The world he thought he knew is suddenly unstable and full of hidden agendas. Ethan's suspicion deepens. His adoption feels like part of a complicated, dangerous scheme. He resolves to uncover the complete truth, no matter the cost. Losing everything. Scene 1. The reading of the will. The family gathers in the Carter mansion's dimly lit study for the reading of Mr. Carter's newly updated will. The lawyer speaks in formal tones, announcing that Brandon is to be the sole heir of the Carter estate, properties, business shares, and family assets, all left to the biological son. Ethan listens in disbelief as the lawyer mentions a small trust fund for the adopted child, barely enough to cover basic living expenses for a few years. Mr. Carter avoids Ethan's stunned gaze, and Mrs. Carter's face is a mask of polite pity. Scene 2. Set up to fail. In the weeks that follow, Ethan is systematically shut out. His access to family credit cards is revoked under the guise of financial responsibility. His name is quietly dropped from business correspondence, and previously promised internships vanish without explanation. Friends within the family circle stop returning. Ethan takes a job stacking books at a local library, hiding his situation from peers. His room in the mansion is cleared. The Carters notify him that it's time to move out and learn independence. Scene 5. Emotional breakdown. Alone in a shabby apartment, Ethan stares at boxes of his belongings, the final remnants of his life with the Carters. Grief, anger, and betrayal boil over. He trashes a box of childhood photos, then falls to his knees and sobs, overwhelmed by loss. Scene 6. Gaining resolve. After the breakdown, Ethan stares into the bathroom mirror, his eyes puffy and red, but his jaw set with new intensity. He spreads out the documents and photos he found in the previous chapter, now determined. If the Carters have spent years setting him up to fall, he will expose their darkest secrets and reclaim his future. Chapter close. The first step toward revenge. Ethan makes a late-night phone call to a local investigative reporter, hinting at scandal within the Carter family. As he hangs up, the city lights blinking outside his grimy window, a sense of purpose begins to eclipse the grief. Ethan is now ready to fight back. Pain and the resolve for revenge. Scene 1. Hitting rock bottom. Life in Ethan's cramped apartment is a stark contrast to the Carter mansion. Peeling wallpaper, leaky faucet, the hum of distant sirens replacing the gentle quiet of his old room. He skips meals to pay rent, pawns away the last of his childhood possessions, and struggles to keep up with classes and his library job. Ethan tries calling Mrs. Green for comfort, but she doesn't answer. Another bridge burned or forcibly removed. Scene 2. Memories and Anguish. Alone on the floor, Ethan recalls moments with the Carters. Birthdays missed. Holidays alone. Brandon's taunts. Mrs. Carter's dismissive stares. The weight of rejection and betrayal presses down on him, making each breath feel like an effort. He even considers disappearing, dropping out, leaving town, erasing himself. Scene 3. Confrontation with Brandon. One rainy afternoon while leaving campus, Ethan crosses paths with Brandon in the university parking lot, references and advice about legal protections and next steps. Scene 6. The Oath. One sleepless night as rain pelts against his window, Ethan stands before his tiny mirror, fist clenched, jaw set. He whispers an oath to himself. They took everything. I'll make them pay. He scribbles on his wall. Revenge is justice. A fire has been lit. Ethan is no longer running from his pain. He's turning it into purpose. Chapter close. The first move. Ethan starts collecting hard evidence, scanning documents and recording phone calls where he can. He drafts a plan, the first real plan of his own life, not handed down by anyone else. In the darkness of early morning, Ethan feels something new. Hope, sharpened by fury, and a fierce taste for justice. The road to revenge. Scene 1. Meticulous planning. Ethan gathers all the damning evidence he's collected against the Carters. Offshore account numbers, fraudulent contract copies, the letter from his birth mother, and recordings of Brandon's threats. He sets up a corkboard in his apartment, mapping connections and plotting timelines, turning the walls into a spider web of secrets and betrayals. Ethan studies news coverage and legal archives, researching whistleblower protections and the vulnerabilities of the Carter business empire. Scene 2. Building allies. Determined not to fight alone, Ethan reaches out to Allison, the investigative journalist. They agree to meet at a quiet cafe downtown. Over coffee, Ethan reveals everything. Allison, impressed and empathetic, promises to protect his identity and dig deeper into the Carter family's past. He also reconnects with Mrs. Green, who reluctantly admits she knew about some of the Carters' illicit dealings but was too afraid to come forward. With encouragement, she shares key details only she could know, solidifying her as an ally. Scene 3. Testing the waters. To gauge the Carters' awareness, Ethan leaks a tip anonymously to a minor news outlet about Carter Industries' questionable overseas investments. Within days, he observes a flurry of panicked calls between Mr. Carter and the family's lawyer. Mr. Carter tries to control the narrative, but more whistleblowers begin to emerge, inspired by Ethan's anonymous stand. Scene 6. A dangerous game. The Carters retaliate, using their legal and financial influence to try to track down the source of the leaks. Ethan faces harassment, false accusations at work, notices from lawyers, even threatening notes slipped under his door. Despite mounting fear, Ethan grows more resolute. Mrs. Green and Allison reassure him. You have what they fear most, the truth. Chapter close. Stepping into the light. As dawn breaks, Ethan reviews the growing pile of evidence and mounting public scrutiny of the Carters. He steps onto his apartment balcony, breathing in cold, clean air. For the first time, he imagines a future where justice, and maybe healing are possible. This is just the beginning, he thinks, ready for the next battle. Facing the past, finding himself. Scene 1. A letter from the past. Amid the whirlwind of his campaign against the Carters, Ethan receives a package forwarded from his old address. Inside, he discovers a faded, unopened letter from his birth mother, written on the day he was left with the Carters. The letter is raw and emotional, describing her struggles, her love for Ethan, and her hope that he would one day understand why she made her choice. Scene 2. Confronting the truth. Ethan visits his childhood neighborhood, retracing the footsteps of the woman who once gave him his first lullabies. The patched playground, the corner bodega, the run-down apartment block where his journey began, all spark fragmented memories and feelings of both loss and longing. He finds neighbors who remember his mother's kindness and sacrifices. Their stories help Ethan see her not as a victim, but as a survivor, full of quiet strength. Scene 3. The hardest conversation. Ethan arranges to meet Mrs. Green, who finally agrees to share everything she knows about his adoption. Over tea, her voice trembling, she recounts. The reasons the Carters really adopted Ethan, their financial motives, their need for a stand-in son amid a letter again, and weeps, not just for the stolen years, but for the understanding that some burdens aren't his to carry. He silently forgives her, and, tentatively, forgives himself. Scene 6. A new identity. Empowered by the truth and clarity, Ethan legally reclaims his birth name. He applies to a new job and volunteers at a youth center, hoping to help kids who feel lost as he once was. The future still holds uncertainty, but for the first time, Ethan feels a sense of belonging not to a family name, but to himself. Chapter close. Looking forward. At sunrise, Ethan stands atop a city bridge, feeling the wind in his hair, the pain of the past finally loosening its grip. He promises himself, whatever comes next, I'll face it as me. Ethan walks forward, no longer in anyone's shadow, but toward the brightening day, ready for whatever his future holds. Moving on and dreams unfold. Scene 1. The final reckoning. The results of Ethan's actions come into full view. Headlines splash across the news, detailing the Carter family's crimes, confessions, and financial collapse. Ethan sees the Carters on television, being called in for questioning. Brandon's once proud face is filled with shame, and Mrs. Carter maintains a hollow dignity. But the weight of their secrets has finally broken them. Ethan receives a package from the authorities, a portion of restitution for his stolen inheritance, enough to support his next steps. Scene 2. Taking stock. Surrounded by new friends at his apartment, Ethan hosts a humble dinner, toasting to resilience and honesty. Allison, the journalist, is there and encourages him to share his story publicly. Mrs. Green, nervously but proudly, brings her famous homemade pie, offering Ethan a sense of chosen family. They reminisce about the difficult journey, laughing through shared memories and bittersweet lessons learned. Trust, once fractured, is now slowly being rebuilt, not with the Carters, but with those who truly understanding broken people. Their friendship blossoms organically, marked by long walks, shared confessions, and promises kept. Ethan finds himself finally able to imagine a future shaped not by revenge or pain, but by possibility. Scene 6. Coming full circle. Ethan returns one last time to his childhood playground, now renovated and filled with children's laughter. Sitting on a bench where his mother once watched over him, Ethan smiles, feeling at peace. He leaves a small bouquet and a note that says, "I made it, Mom. Thank you for everything," as the sun sets softly behind him. Chapter close. The promise of tomorrow. On the eve of his graduation, Ethan stands at his window, city lights glimmering, his heart light and steady. He remembers the pain and the struggle, but now those memories sharpen his resolve to keep dreaming and keep helping others. As day turns to night, Ethan whispers his own promise to the future. No matter what, I will keep moving forward. Epilogue. A New Dawn. Scene 1. 1 year later. It's a bright Saturday morning, nearly a year after the Carters' fall from grace. The city feels different, full of possibility, with autumn leaves stirring on the sidewalks. Ethan wakes in his sunlit apartment, a place now filled with plants, books, and snapshots of new friends and family. Scene 2. Sharing his story. At a public library, Ethan stands at a lectern, reading from his new memoir, Shadows and Second Chances. The room is filled with students, aspiring writers, and foster youth, some anxious, some hopeful. Allison sits in the front row, recording his words, while Mrs. Green discreetly dabs at tears. Ethan's voice is steady as he recounts not just the pain, but the hope that grew from hardship, leaving his audience inspired. Scene 3. Reunion and reconciliation. After the reading, Ethan is approached by a quiet woman, his birth mother's younger sister, his aunt, who heard his story on the radio. They embrace tentatively, and as they talk, Ethan feels the gaps in his heart begin to close, the promise of true family within reach. Scene 4. Legacy and giving back. Future back home, Ethan prepares for a video call with the first group of students funded by his foundation. The screen lights up with young, hopeful faces, a new generation unafraid to dream. As he encourages them to write their own stories, Ethan realizes that his journey has turned a cycle of pain into a legacy of hope. Chapter close. A New Dawn. The chapter ends just as dawn breaks, sunlight flooding his apartment and illuminating his vision board, covered in goals, sketches, and handwritten words. You are enough. Keep moving forward. Dream, forgive, love. Ethan gazes out at the awakening city, both grateful for the past and eager for tomorrow. Full circle, the light within. Scene 1. Dawn's quiet promise. Ethan wakes before sunrise, standing by the window as the city gradually brightens. He reflects on his journey, noticing how his scars, once a source of shame, have become reminders of his resilience. Scene 2. The scholarship ceremony. Dressed in his best suit, Ethan travels to the City Hall, where the Second Chance Foundation is awarding its very first scholarship. The hall buzzes with anticipation. Youth from every corner of the city, some fostered, some estranged, all full of big dreams, wait nervously. Ethan delivers a heartfelt speech about his rocky beginnings, the power of forgiveness, and the promise of choosing one's own destiny. As he calls the winner's name, applause reverberates, and Ethan sees himself in their shining eyes, hopeful, determined, unbroken. Scene 3. Full circle moments. After the event, Ethan sits alone in the park, reading letters from scholarship recipients, words of gratitude, fears confessed, hope rekindled. Mrs. Green joins him, arm in arm, bringing homemade sandwiches and laughter. They reminisce about old wounds and new joys, quietly honoring the people who helped Ethan reach this place. Scene 4. Seeds of new love. Lucas finds Ethan at the park, offering congratulations and sharing a gentle touch on his hand. Under the golden afternoon sun, possibility stretches between them, a life woven not from past pain, but from mutual care and respect. They talk about travel plans, writing projects, and making the foundation even bigger, dreams that once felt unreachable now within grasp. Scene 5. Letting go and look free. Hope made me human. Ethan closes the notebook, a gentle smile on his face. Chapter close, the light within. As he turns off the lamp, the room glows not from electric light, but from the peace inside him. The final sentence. With the past finally at rest, Ethan stepped into the darkness, no longer afraid, carrying the light within himself. Encore. Ripples through time. Scene 1. Years later. Seeds of change. The story opens several years after Ethan's scholarship ceremony. Ethan is now a respected advocate and author, his memoir included in high school curriculums and community programs. A montage shows people, teachers, social workers, and troubled youth reading his book, the words underlined and pages dog-eared. Scene 2. Ethan's everyday life. Ethan hosts workshops for young writers and survivors of trauma, fostering a space where everyone's story matters. His foundation has expanded, now supporting dozens of youth each year, and the annual scholarship event is a city tradition. Ethan's apartment, once a stark reflection of his loneliness, is now warm and lived in. Photos, paintings, and laughter in every corner. Scene 3. Letters from the next generation. Over morning coffee, Ethan reads a stack of letters. A college freshman writes, "Because of you, I kept believing." A teacher thanks him for helping a shy student finally share her poem. A former foster child, now a social worker, credits Ethan's story for inspiring her career. Moved, Ethan realizes his pain and healing have become touchstones for others' hope. Scene 4. Milestones and memories. In a sunlit kitchen, Ethan celebrates his birthday with Lucas, Mrs. Green, and a circle of friends, found family all around. They toast to first jobs, published poems, new beginnings, and old wounds mending. An empty chair at the table is reserved for those gone but not forgotten. Ethan's mother, teachers who believed in him, even people he never met who shaped his path. Scene 5. The visit to the old playground. Untold. Ethan's hope flowed onward, quiet, steady, forever rippling through time. Beyond the final page. Legacies and beginnings. Scene 1. Seeds in new soil. Years have passed since Ethan's journey first began. The city's landscape has shifted, old buildings replaced with new ones, reminders of change and resilience. Ethan stands beneath a row of cherry blossoms outside the Foundation's new headquarters, their petals drifting through the air, a symbol of renewal. Scene 2. Passing the torch. Inside, a diverse group of teens and young adults gather for the first annual New Voices Summit, a writing and mentorship retreat established by Ethan's foundation. Ethan, now a mentor and author, opens the event, but quickly steps aside so the next generation can lead, offering encouragement, not control. He watches with pride as students share poetry, art, and stories born from both suffering and strength. Scene 3. The ripple expands. Ethan receives news that a former scholarship recipient is starting a similar foundation in another city. Letters and emails pour in from around the world, readers who found hope, teachers using his memoir in classrooms, programs inspired by his model. For the first time, Ethan sees that his influence stretches far beyond what he ever imagined, connecting people across continents and generations. Scene 4. Private Moments of Grace. One quiet afternoon, Ethan visits his late mother's grave, this time not with sorrow, but gratitude. He tells her about the lives her love and sacrifice have touched, promising never to forget her lessons. He plants a sapling beside her stone, a living symbol that roots can deepen and branches can reach higher than anyone expects. Scene 5. Coming Home. Back at his own modest home, Ethan finds Lucas making dinner, music playing softly. Friends drop by with laughter and news, and Mrs. Green arrives with her famous pie and hugs for everyone. This is Ethan's new definition of family. Not just blood, but bond, trust, shared dreams, and the willingness to show up, again and again. Scene 6. The next chapter begins. At dusk, Ethan sits at his desk, pen in hand, ready to begin